What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, August 24th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff Iafrady, and also my boy, Troy Sergi. But also, we have a special guest in the building today, Saginaw native, also the new beat writer for the Detroit News, former beat writer writing for Syracuse over in New York as well. We got our guy, Mike Curtis. Mike, thank you so much for being here, man. Seriously, we've been talking about doing this for a couple months now. Ever since you joined, we connected right then, and dude, seriously, been really excited for this. And yeah, man, seriously, glad you're here.
No, I really appreciate all the support, and I'm glad to be here. This is kind of a full circle moment for me coming from Saginaw, Michigan. So coming back to Michigan to cover the team that I grew up watching, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and to join at the time that you are too, especially like with everything going on in the organization, the motive, just the momentum in the city, just
Yeah.
everything going on. I just think it's just a super exciting time, not only for yourself but just for the city of Detroit as well. And also, we are big Rod Beard lovers over here. Jeff's on the Woodward Pistons podcast with him each and every week, so definitely some big shoes to fill, but definitely.
Rod loves this man, by the way.
Yeah,
And
Rod.
he said nothing but great things about you too.
Yeah, Rod doesn't give compliments easy, and for he's saying a lot of high praises, and I would say nothing but the same thing so far, man. I think Rod talked about how much of a preparation guy this guy is, how much he loves to prep and have hard work. This guy, right when we started talking, was like, "Hey, like, what do you guys want to talk about on the pod?" And we were talking about that for like a long time. This guy does the work. So seriously, man, super excited.
Man, went to Syracuse, man.
Yeah, man.
Play a little 2-3 zone over there.
Yeah, I was in Syracuse for 3.5 years. I didn't go to the university. I went to Tennessee State, but I spent a lot of time there in Central New York, and it definitely prepared me for this moment. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to Rod Beard. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for him. He's my assistant sports editor. I report to him on a daily, so we're building a really good relationship here so far, and I'm glad to be here in Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Rod's a legend. Did a lot of great work and a lot of great reporting over a lot of years. We definitely are appreciative of him. He's a friend of the show, been on the show as well before, so definitely appreciate him. There will be a link as well down for Mike's work for the Detroit News down in the description below. So be sure that you go and check that out, and also be sure you go follow Michael on Twitter as well. What is your Twitter handle, by the way?
Yeah, I wish I could have put it in as my name, but it's Mike A. Curtis 2.
All right, perfect. Yep. So go follow Mike A. Curtis. There's going to be a link to that down below as well. So be sure you go follow Mike on Twitter as well. But in addition, you talk about that journey of growing up in Saginaw and growing up as a Pistons fan. And you mentioned you did a little get to know you article on the Detroit News as well, which was a really good read. And you talk about how you attended your first game in 2005. It was against the Denver Nuggets. I attended my first game in 2005. And my first game was against the Dallas Mavericks, but it was a preseason game in Grand Rapids. So nice. Kind of a cool thing. I thought was pretty cool that you and I had that in common, that we both went to our first game the same year. And I don't know about you, man, but for me, from that moment on, I was hooked. Like just to the game, just to the team, just to following the sport as a whole. That was like a foundational experience in my life. And so the fact that was one of the first things you brought up, it seemed like it was a pretty big one for yours. So you grew up with that team. What was your favorite member of the Going to Work Pistons? Or what were some of those things that attracted you to the team and made you a fan growing up?
Yeah, it's funny because I think if I had to pick anything or any piece of that team, it would have to be Chauncey Big Shot Billups. He was my favorite Piston growing up. He's actually my favorite player of all time. And it's not just from what he did on the court. It was the leadership that he brought to that whole team. He brought a team full of guys who were trying to get to that ultimate level of success. They were trying to get that championship. You got Chauncey, you got Ben Wallace, you got Rasheed, you got Tayshaun, you got Rip. He brought those collective players together as a unit, and he made it work. He led them to the finals, became finals MVP, became a multiple all-star with the team. And I think just how he led that team with his leadership, and also similar to my journey in basketball, he could shoot. And that's one thing I love. Like, I love offense. So you're always going to get, I think, an analysis perspective of the offensive side of the ball when it comes to my coverage.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, just watching Chauncey Billups play, I mean, when it was crunch time, you knew when the ball was in his hands and they let him get to his spot, it was a wrap. Like there was nothing else that the team could do.
And he shot the 3 ball better than anyone in that time period from the point guard spot. I mean, we don't talk about that enough of just his high percentage from free throw line and 3-point line.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite just Chauncey moves is when he has the ball on a fast break. He's dribbling up the court and he just stops at the 3-point line and it goes in. I always thought that was so cool because at that point, you didn't see a lot of players do that. They would definitely take it to the hole. They would dish it to one of their teammates, lob it for alley-oop. I know we saw Rip and Tayshaun connect on a bunch of those alley-oop plays. But when Chauncey just brought the ball up and just shot a 3-pointer, like, you just knew it was going in most times.
Yeah, if anyone else did that back in the day, like, they would have gotten benched. Like, that's not something you're doing in that era of basketball. So the fact that Chauncey did that, like, on a regular basis and, like, it was as effective as it was. I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, Chauncey was an absolute bucket.
Speaking of Sean, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to bring up the fact that when they traded Chauncey to the Nuggets, that's kind of when my fandom faded out of the team. And I think it was for a good reason, because now I can cover the team, come in and cover the team with a clear subjective mindset and not be biased towards the Pistons, because I kind of separated that fandom back when I was younger.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah. No, I'm totally, yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not wearing it on my chest at all. No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were bad.
Yeah.
And we were trying to win and we were really bad. That's what made it worse, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, and also just with everything else going on in the NBA world too, there was just objectively way more interesting games to watch. There was always just there was just other storylines going on. I mean, that was during like the LeBron James Heatles era. Like, there was a lot of things going on in the NBA world, and it was tough to tune into Jonas Jerebko and Kyle Singler being your offense. So I definitely empathize with that on a deep level. Oh my gosh. But another thing you said side note, you brought up how your first job was at Hungry Howie's and you would spend your money on pizza and video games. Are you still a gamer, and do you play 2K? And if you do,
of course.
Okay, where do you think you compare yourself right now? Like, obviously you're gonna have to work your way up. But like, as far as like compared to other beat writers, you feel like you're pretty up there in like skill. You think you could, like, there's like a big beat writer 2K tournament, you think you could get a good ranking?
I'll say this. Had I not become a journalist, I probably would have been in the NBA 2K league.
Okay.
So are you more of a
I'll leave it at
that
guy?
My player, or do you do the exhibition games?
So I used to be a heavy my player guy. But as soon as they introduced my team, it was just so interesting for me to take players from different eras and just bring them all together on one team, customize the uniforms, customize the name. So I'm a big my team guy.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I know what I'm going to be texting you for after this. If you have a PlayStation, definitely that PSN network, that's for sure. But
team Xbox over here.
Oh, hey, that's okay.
Ooh,
Hey, that's
tough.
okay. I have one of those too. We'll
That's
figure out a way. But no, I love that, man. That's awesome. One funny thing though, you brought up, so your time at Syracuse, obviously being there for 4 years, being able to be at, in my opinion, one of the best sports colleges in the nation. I mean, just, from the basketball culture that they have. I mean, the Boeheim family and everything, like everything they have over there, just their football program, which people might overlook, but the ACC football is highly competitive and has a lot of exciting action each and every year. What was that experience like, and what were some of the favorite aspects and things that you were able to do and learn from your time being at Syracuse?
Yeah, for sure. I spent 3.5 years there, and I will never forget each one. I think they were imperative to the preparation and experiences that led me to here in Detroit. if I have to think about my time there, I think I have to start from the beginning. I started in 2008, November, as a high school sports reporter. So before I was even covering Buddy Boeheim and Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, I was covering several different high schools in Central New York. And I think that I used that as preparation to get to the next level, which was college. So anytime I was covering a basketball game, I felt like that was going to be the end all be all, or the big basketball game that would lead me to the college level. When I was covering the state championships, I treated it like it was the NBA finals. So I always appreciate that grassroots level. And there was a very good, he's still good. He's at Notre Dame right now. Basketball player by the name of JJ Starling. I covered him closely. I got to know him, his mom, his dad, really great people. He's a really good kid, 4.0 student, but on the court, he was a dog. He could shoot like no other. He was one of the best shooters in the 2022 class. He was being recruited by Syracuse. But I was there for some of his highest moments there in Central New York before he went to La Lumiere Academy in LaPorte, Indiana. So that was a really big part of the high school experience for me. But once I got to the college level, first I was the third beat writer behind a couple of my colleagues, Mike Waters and Donna DeSoto. Very, very well-respected reporters. So I was behind them, and I just got to learn from them the last 2 seasons covering Syracuse basketball. And that was pretty cool. So going to the games, watching Buddy, who a lot of Pistons fans will be introduced to this season because he's on the two-way. Just watching him shoot, I think that's what sticks out the most about Buddy when you first see him. He's a knockdown shooter.
Can I ask, by the way, how weird was it when Buddy Boeheim is signed as a two-way player and you show up your first assignment in Vegas and, you're covering your new team, you're at your new job, and there's Buddy Boeheim right there reporting on him and covering for him again, having the Boeheim family in the stands at that first Vegas game? Was it kind of like a weird little deja vu thing? Did you guys have a funny little exchange about that at all?
Yeah, so let me tell you about that. I actually didn't go to Vegas for Summer League. I covered Summer League remotely from Syracuse. No worries at all. Rob Beard was there on site, pretty much covering the game from the in-person perspective, but I had the remote perspective, and I was able to see what was going on TV. So I did see Jim and Julie there, and they gave a couple of interviews. So that was really cool to see just the full circle moment of Buddy Boeheim and Jimmy Boeheim playing for the Pistons. I can tell you, I was hired by the News on June, I want to say, I accepted the offer around June 15th. So that was shortly before the NBA draft. Yeah. So when it came out that Buddy and Jimmy were going to Detroit, Jimmy on a Summer League deal, everyone thought it was kind of so they were announced first, and then I didn't make my public announcement until July 4th. So everyone thought it was a conspiracy that we all were going to Detroit, which is a funny story.
So the league offices are about to be hitting up your line right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it's just a wild coincidence the way it happened, the way it did. And I did a really cool piece on Buddy. It came out a couple of weeks ago where I was able to just talk to him about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome. I was actually reading that a little bit before you actually came on. It is a really good article. And again, all of Mike's work is going to be linked right down below. So be sure you go check that out and read on that because it's a lot of great stuff. Jeff, do you have any questions or anything you want to ask Mike real quick?
I wanted to ask, because personally, and we talk a lot about Troy Weaver, and I still think he will go down as one of, if not the best general manager in Pistons history, just because of his ability to recognize talent, and his plan already. He lays it out in front of you. I don't know if you've met him directly or you've had any experiences with him, but I just want to get your opinion on it from an outsider perspective, who's someone also from Michigan. What was your first impression of Troy Weaver?
Yeah, so I actually had my first in-person impression with Troy Weaver last night at the kickoff party for the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy Golf Classic. Pretty cool dude. pretty cool dude. We obviously had the Syracuse tie, so we were able to kind of joke and bond with that avenue. But it was a brief exchange, but it was pretty cool to see him in person. He just said, "I look forward to working with you." So definitely looking forward to getting to know more Troy. But everything he's done, like as far as with the team, like the way he flipped basically Jeremy Grant to get the number 13 pick and Jalen Duren, like that was anytime you can get 2 lottery picks in one draft, you're coming out a winner regardless.
And the fact, and the fact he's done it twice in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what other general manager is doing that? Few, very few. I mean, him and Sam Presti.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah, and I totally get it on Troy Weaver. He is definitely a pretty cool dude. I mean, myself, not to brag, but myself and Troy Weaver, best friends, 2 peas in a pod.
Oh, wow.
We get dinner together on Sundays. Our families are in contact. All that. No, totally kidding. Just I got a selfie with him one time, and I don't know how.
Can I also ask you another question real quick about Rob Murphy? Just because I love Rob Murphy, man. Like he is the man. I met him about a year ago when he was still working with the Crews. And have you had any interaction with him as well? Because like I know he got promoted, now he works under Troy, and he's somebody that I'm really excited about for the future with this organization. But any encounters with Rob?
Yeah. I actually caught up with him last night as well as Troy, but my first interaction with him was actually at the Teal launch party a couple of weeks ago, and I saw him on the elevator. I did a lot of research like on the Pistons front office staff, so I'm trying to recollect, where do I know this guy from? I've seen him before. And then I just introduced myself and said, "Hey, I'm Mike Curtis with the Detroit News," and he said, "I'm Rob Murphy," and it clicked just like that. So that was a pretty cool exchange. So we also talked about Syracuse and his time there. So he was pretty cool too.
And I think moving into our next segment, but I kind of want to kick this off because I definitely want to know this part from you is what excites you about this upcoming season and what storylines from the guys on this team just to really excite you. What are you excited to see this year with the young core that we see on this roster?
Yeah, I'm interested to seeing how is this all going to work? How are they all going to mesh together? Anytime you have a young nucleus of players, of course, there's going to be some growing pains. But on paper, it looks like they're going to fit very well. It looks like jaden Ivey is going to complement Cade Cunningham very well. On the nights where Cade doesn't particularly either want to or need to facilitate or score the ball, you can have Ivey doing either of those things and vice versa. So I think they're going to complement each other really well. You throw in Sadiq Bey, who is a bona fide scorer. Like he scored 50 last season. So
a monster in the gym too. I mean, who else is doing high altitude training in Colorado for fun in the off season? Nobody.
Yeah. Dwayne Casey during summer league, he complimented his work ethic and said it's like no other player. So definitely looking forward to seeing what he has to offer this season. Isaiah Stewart extending his game to the perimeter, knocking down 3-pointers, especially with confidence. I want to see if that continues. And I also want to see what Duren is going to do this season. I'm not sure if he's going to start, if he's going to be a big minutes guy, but I know he's extremely athletic. He can block shots. He has a post game. He definitely is a lob threat. We saw that on the first play of Summer League with Ivey and Duren. So there are a lot of storylines. I wonder where Marvin Bagley is going to fit into all this. He just got that new 3-year deal with the Pistons. So there's a lot of things I'm excited about.
Yeah, no options on that deal either. Like 3 years, $12.5 million per year. Like that is a committed deal to Marvin Bagley. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's the type of player you conceivably could like trade at some point, like if need be, if you ultimately decide to make a move. But I that's definitely one of those storylines, to your point, that I'm definitely interested in seeing as well. And with Jalen Duren, you kind of touched on it. Like, what is his role going to be this year? And it's so interesting. Like, I'm excited to see this team in person for the first time this year. Just to be able to actually see what these guys look like what the lineup actually looks like in person. Like I'd imagine, Jalen Duren, he looks physically massive, like in images and on television. I can only imagine what he looks like in the open space on an NBA court in person. That's got to be terrifying.
Yeah, I was talking to Jalen last night, and he compared Duran to a young Bam Adebayo. So if he's anywhere like Bam, that's going to be a good thing for the Pistons.
Yeah, Dwayne Casey's been saying Sean Kemp a whole lot on interviews.
Yeah.
Even if
I'll take either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if he's like a mixture of any of those types of athletes, like
You're good.
That's pretty good company to be listed in. That's for sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
We know he's lottery pick, material. So I mean, those names shouldn't really surprise us.
Yeah, and you said something that is really good to mention, and I think is a really good question to ask is how is it all going to work? Because I think a lot of us, see the offensive upside of having Cade and Jaden Ivey in your backcourt and what that can be once they figure out how to play together. But that's that key quantifier of how they figure out how to play together, because, both guys are going to need the ball in their hands. Cade definitely doesn't need to have it as much as maybe Jaden does per se. I think Cade's an insanely selfless player, and I think Ivey is definitely, he seems very committed to make it work and want to play alongside Cade. What do you think about that tandem that they're building on, like that upside that they have? And what do you think, to maybe someone that isn't as familiar with the game of basketball or what it is like for some of these younger guards to come in and what those growing pains look like? What do you think are going to be some of those challenges?
Yeah, I think for Ivy, and we saw this a little bit in the first half of his first summer league game against Portland. I think just the speed of the game is what's going to be one of his biggest challenges. Like, when does he push it? When does he slow the tempo? When does he get guys involved? When does he take the ball for himself and hit that step back that he hit against in the second game, which was crazy. It was a sidestep three to the left. I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
But when does he choose to attack the rim? I think those are kind of the struggles that he's going to have. And for Cade, I think it's going to be just the sacrificial part. Like, how much of my scoring am I going to have to sacrifice now that I'm the number one option? Because last season it was Jeremy Grant, even though he was hurt for the majority of the year.
Right.
So now it looks like Cade could be stepping into that role as a number one scorer, or it could be Sadiq. You just never know. So I think Cade is going to I think he'll adjust to it pretty quickly just because he's already been working in the gym. We've seen the clips of him guarding Steph Curry. We've just seen clips of the entire team just trying to get that work in this summer because they know it's going to be a challenge next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just Steph Curry. There's the images with Cade and Kyrie Irving earlier this summer as well. I know even in a lot of interviews and reports and talks with the team that it's been a focus for these guys to spend time together and be together this off season, which, when you look at winning cultures and you contrast to like what the Pistons were like over the past 20 years or even that last decade, that's like unheard of compared to like what we've seen before. So just seeing, I think the reason why, obviously I, myself, I cover, the Pistons for Woodward Sports. So I try my best, I even though I am a fan and obviously I wear merch and wear my love for the city of Detroit on my chest, I try to come at it from an analyst point of view, but obviously there's parts of fandom that can link in. You try your best to, keep that separate. But even from an objective standpoint, it's hard not to look at the culture that they're building, the camaraderie that they have as a team, the dedication that they have, and how much these guys like being around each other. And even Tom Gore's like doing things like having Lil Baby come out and perform at like an event. Like, that sounds little, but like, the dedication to do that and like have that type of thing for your team, like, you don't have to do that. Like, that's taking care of your team at a pretty high level. So, I just think I look at the culture and, and maybe you could touch on that a little bit more too, Mike, and your thoughts. But to me, I just look at that and it seems to me like the foundations of what has been built so far can really lead to some long-term success if these next couple of years are handled right.
Yeah, I think they're definitely on an upside. When you look at the summer league games, you saw pretty much Cade and Sadiq and Isaiah when he wasn't playing, and Killian just sitting there front row watching all the guys competing for a spot in the NBA. So that's got to be good to see if you're a Pistons fan. You see them together at the playoff games, trying to soak in that atmosphere because that's something that they aspire to get to. So I think that's all good for camaraderie. And you see them at these summer runs trying to just get better. Anytime you see something like that with a young team, it's a good sign because it likely translates on the court. But they still got to play the games at the end of the day. We can't just say that they're going to go out and improve by 20 wins just because they have a young, fun, electric team. I can't call it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be fun. I think they're going to be exciting, but I think there are definitely going to be some growing pains. They're going to be probably going to be some games where they go up big by like 20 and end up blowing the lead just because they don't have that experience factor. We're
used to that though as Pistons fans. So.
We can handle it.
Yeah. So, but the more and more they have experiences like that, the more and more they should mature. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think people would know that by now, but yet again, after Hard Knocks, seeing all that, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the Lions win predictions climb up like more and more each month as we get closer and closer to football season. And in March, I was hearing 5-6 wins is a successful season. Now I'm hearing people say 10's a possibility. I'm like, how did we get? That's a whole other conversation. I'm not the Lions. That's a whole other type of pain that we don't have to talk about here because this is basketball, really.
I will say Hard Knocks has me captivated. It has me a little bit more intrigued about this upcoming Lions season.
We will say, like at Woodward, Malcolm Rodriguez, a little bit before Hard Knocks, actually came on one of our shows and has been a friend of the network a little bit. So to see like him kind of shine and be really, really good in the preseason, like we've been rooting for him hard. So that's been really fun to see. Jeff, do you have anything for Mike?
I want to get I need the person, Mike. Like your personal opinion on teal jerseys. I need
there we go.
Mike, I need your feelings. This is personal feelings because I had this argument, not really an argument, but a discussion with Terry Foster. And we always talk about the teal jerseys and he gives me his perspective. He's like, I don't get how you guys like the teal. He's like, I have no problem with you guys liking the teal. It's a different perspective. Like for me, I was born on really the back half of the teal era. So I don't really have an emotional connection with it. But listen, the jersey's sweet, but what is your kind of, I guess, background with the teal and what are your thoughts on it? And just in general.
Yeah, for sure. So for background, I was born in 91. I am a 90s baby, early 90s baby. So that's kind of what I saw growing up, like the horse with the flame and the teal and the maroon. So Jerry Stackhouse growing up. So I am pro teal. I'm a big jersey guy in general. I love uniforms. I love just the intricacies and the details, and I can tell what's been changed from year to year. Like the Pistons shorts, they got rid of the DP and they replaced it with the logo, the basketball logo for this season. So I'm a big fan of just NBA jerseys in general. So I am pro teal. I think they're clean. I think they're sleek. I like the new teal uniforms, and I think it's a generational thing. Like, I know some people say that the teals remind them of an era when the Pistons weren't as good. They weren't competing for championships. But I think it really just depends on, it's just a jersey at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And another thing too, Mike, it's like people say, well, that era doesn't bring back great memories. I'm like, well, what great memories have you had the last, 10, 15 years besides the Eastern Conference Finals runs late in the 2000s? But yeah, I just had to get your opinion on that just to clear it up. But yeah, pro teal. We like
yeah. Now, since you said you're a big jersey guy, I got to get your opinion on the heat that the Utah Jazz are bringing this season.
Man. Highlighter jerseys,
dude. Oh my God.
Their turquoise blue back in the late 2000s, 2009, 2010. That wasn't too bad, but this, guys.
They
I,
didn't need
I,
like we already knew they were tanking. They didn't need to say it with their uniforms. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think Utah had one of the best uniform combos in the league before they made this move. The sunset jerseys were pretty cool. The yellow jersey, the note on it was pretty cool. Their basic association and icon jerseys, those are okay, not the best, but I don't like this move at all.
Yeah, now they're wearing the Air Office Max ones with the highlighter jerseys. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's not.
They're trying to push Donovan out of there. I swear to God, with those jerseys.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
They are doing everything they can to push him out of there. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. This episode of From Half Court is brought to you by Manscaped. When we talk about post players, there is few better players in the restricted area than our friends over at Manscaped. With great products such as the Lawnmower 4.0 with skin-safe technology, the Weed Whacker, their deodorants, lotions, and more, Manscaped is unrivaled when it comes to the men's hygiene game, serving over 8 million balls worldwide. That's a lot of testicles, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're finding yourself in need of Manscaped products, be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout because that can get you 20% off plus free shipping. Our friends at Manscaped sent us these products, and I can tell you that they are absolutely for real. I have been absolutely satisfied and in love with their entire product line, from boxers, t-shirts, the Lawnmower 4.0 to the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer. You can really not go wrong. Be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you again to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this video. But speaking of, so obviously, you know, being from Michigan, being from Saginaw, and having that background and that perspective of what it's like to grow up at, you know, both growing up in the Michigan area, growing up on that side of the state, growing up near the city, but also with that understanding of the team's history and the background and the foundation. I'm assuming you probably also had a pretty good, you know, understanding of like what the layout is of the beat writers and the reporters in Detroit, and kind of like how the team has been covered in the past and what that's been like. What are some things that you personally as a reporter, like what are some of like the stories that you're excited to tell? What are some of the reports that you're excited to to make? And, you know, just kind of like as a reporter specifically, what are the types of stories and things that get you excited to get out of bed in the morning and to get up and start writing?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I think for me, I've always been a guy that loves to tell stories beyond just the basketball court. I think we as people, everyone, we all have stories to tell. We all have experiences who define us. And I think that's the case for a lot of these players. But sometimes they just get overlooked and they just get put in a box as athletes. And there's something deeper there. So I always like to tell the story about what they're interested in, what drives them, what motivates them. Something specifically like Jaden Ivey's family connections to this city of Detroit. His mom playing for the Detroit Shock, his grandfather playing for the Lions, his dad playing high school ball here. So I think that's a story that I'm very interested in learning more about and telling and sharing. Cade Cunningham's tie or interest in rapping. I think that's a pretty hot topic. And a lot of people have weighed in about it, but just to see what drives him, what's his passion outside of the basketball court. But then we can also just tell the basketball stories about, hey, how did you develop into a prolific three-point shooter? Or how did you become a really good passer? What did you do when you were growing up that kind of led you to have this pass-first mindset or this score-first mindset? Or what's your favorite detail about the game of basketball? Like mine's personally is when the ball goes through the net and you hear it's almost like a popping sound.
Oh, yep.
Like I love it. And then when the net gets stuck through the rim and you have to like just move it out, like that's how you know it was all net and it just went through. So there are a lot of intricacies about the game of basketball that I want to tell, but also just about the players and what they bring to the table off the court.
Yeah. Man, that's a great question. Your favorite little detail about the game of basketball. I actually kind of want to pause and talk about that a little more because that's actually a really cool topic. For me, I think I think I get really nostalgic. Like obviously when I'm there watching a game of basketball, I get really nostalgic. But for me, I think it's the sounds. I think for me, that's the stuff that like gets me like really into it. So it's like whether it's like, hearing the sneakers on the court, hearing people like shuffling their feet, whether it's hearing like the like if you're in the Little Caesars Arena or the Palace of Auburn Hills, like the similar sights and sounds and things that you hear over the Jumbotron, hearing Mason's voice, like stuff like that. But like, for me, I just in general, for me, when I hear those sounds, like that's when I know I'm at a game. And that's what gets me hyped up. Jeff, I'm interested. What's yours?
I was thinking when he first said that, I wasn't thinking about an NBA court. I'm just thinking about just basketball in general.
No,
it's the
yeah,
ball,
for sure.
and bouncing. It's dribbling, man. Like just hearing that on the hardwood is what that's the most satisfying thing to me. But unless it's Mike's, also a great point is the actual ball going through the net. Like that's the other like ooh, like in 2K. That's why when you hit that green, it's a different feeling.
Yeah.
So I gotta agree with him there. That or just simply dribbling. I like both those.
Can I ask, by the way, what are your thoughts? Like I know some arenas, like the Dallas Mavericks in particular, they have microphones in the rims so that actually like accentuates the like that pop. What are your thoughts on those? Are you pro or anti mics in the rim?
I'm pro, just because of the simple fact of that sound right there. Like as a viewer, as a fan of basketball, like I love hearing that sound. So when you see it and you hear it at the same time, that's really cool to hear. But when you also hear the clanking when a team can't find the bottom of the net, it has a lid on the basket, it can be kind of excruciating, but you just got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, to me, it's the most satisfying when they don't have the mics and it still comes through in the microphone feed because it's that loud of a rip because it was that much of a bucket. To me, that's the most satisfying.
Yeah, the net don't even move.
Yeah, exactly. But Troy, what's yours, man?
Yeah, someone who played a lot of basketball back in the day with high school and camps all summer long and stuff. Guys, it's the smell of the gym. There's a unique smell to the gym that
was not going to be my pick. There is a unique smell there that there are some smells there that I don't like. Troy.
I love it. I love the smell of an empty gym opening up 7 a.m. It's camp time. I love the art of free throws too. I mean, I guess that's a little bit different, but the art of free throws has always interested me because you're traditionally your guards shoot a little bit better than your big men, but when you get to the pros, you should make the argument that all your players should hit the free throws well. So I just think the art of free throws, and then even in the college level, like the 1-on-1s is a really interesting thing that I would love to see that come to the pros. To be honest with you, it would change the game a little bit, but the art of free throws and the smell of the gym are my two favorite.
No.
Smell of the gym.
Yeah. It's unique.
He's kind of right. He's right.
Yeah.
Because every gym kind of smells the same, no matter what city you're in, no matter what state you're in. And that's just the beauty of basketball to me.
Trust me, I'll take the smell of a gym over the smell of a hockey locker room.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, man.
When I was covering high school sports, that was one of the worst smells I could ever recall.
I had a buddy that worked at a hockey rink, so I used to go down there all the time and hang out with him there. Yeah, that is the worst smell that exists in mankind. I'll agree with you there. Oh my gosh. I do kind of want to get back to, because you talked about your love of storytelling and talking about that stuff that's beyond the game, beyond what's on the court, and that's the stuff that I absolutely love as well. And again, I talk about not just because there's obviously the things that we can talk about on the court and the basketball details. Believe me, we'll get back there because we love talking about that stuff. But also we love talking about the city as well, and talking about the team and the big picture and what it means, not just like what success for this franchise means in just like the macro sense of like, oh, it's cool to have a winning team in Detroit again, but like also how this team is on the rise in a similar way that Detroit is on a rise again, and with all the the trials and tribulations and all the difficulties and stuff that the city has gone through all of these years. Now to have all 4 teams in downtown, to have as much dedication as the city does from all of the organizations, but in addition from people like Tom Gorse, people like someone you just brought up, Jalen Rose, and everything he's doing there with his academy. I mean, we are very embedded and love the city of Detroit to death here. I mean, we're part of Woodward Sports, which is, named after Woodward Avenue. So, very near and dear to our hearts here. What excites you about not just covering the team, but also like covering the city, what this means for like the big picture, and what are some of those things that to you think it would mean for Detroit if we saw this team start winning?
Ooh,
It's a lot there, man. It's heavy, but
that is.
it's special though, man. It could be special.
I think it's pretty interesting that all four major sports franchises first play so close in a close radius within each other.
Mhm.
First night I got here, a friend took me like on a tour pretty much all day. I started around here in Southfield. We went to Birmingham. We went to, by the time the night was over, we were in downtown Detroit. And I think it was the same night as the Tigers game. So I saw a lot of the fans just rushing into Comerica Park. And then I see Ford Field over here, and then I see LCA over here, and just seeing it lit up at night. I mean, it was pretty cool. Like not a lot of major cities have all four sports teams so close together. So I think that in itself, it shows you that Detroit is a city who prides itself on its sports teams. And when those sports teams are winning, it's very beneficial for the city. Like when those Pistons teams were going to the finals back in 04 and 05, it was a good thing for the city, even though they were in Auburn Hills at the time. When the Red Wings were competing for playoff appearances, that was a good thing for the city. So I think the Lions, they still got a lot of work to do in order to get to that level, but they're definitely on the rise with their new coach and their new pieces. So when you take a look at what the Pistons are doing, they're building that culture. They're building an identity. And if it translates on the court, then I think we'll be able to see a little bit more of that camaraderie that you were talking about between the sports franchises. Like when the Pistons released the schedule, they collaborated with Detroit versus Everybody, very popular clothing brand around here. I'm sure everyone has seen the shirts. But they also made sure to include the Tigers, the Wings, and the Lions in that as well. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that, man. And yeah, to your point, it just, this city they love their teams, man, and how loyal and how dedicated. It's crazy, man, because on Pistons Twitter in particular, there's a lot of people on there that I've known for years. And like you talk to them and it's like they started watching like the Brandon Jennings years. And like that's like the stuff they look back on. Like that's the era that like defines their Pistons fandom. Like Troy, like you said, you faded out when they traded Chauncey. Troy, I'm pretty sure that was your first full year watching the team.
Yeah, that was my first full year watching. I watched a little bit of that 2008 Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics, but my first year where I watched literally every game on TV, and I was at a couple of games, was that Allen Iverson year. And then I got even more invested when they got Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva, but we all know how that turned out. So I remember watching a couple of games as a really young kid with the 06 Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. But really, Iverson was the first full season. So,
yeah, that's all. Yeah, and brave soul, man, brave soul. Oh my gosh, I do want to ask. I do want to like ask a couple more questions about you. But first, I do want to ask a couple more like Pistons basketball questions. I know you brought up your love for shooters and the offensive end of the game. And one thing Detroit did this offseason was I think they put an emphasis on, improving shooting, getting a guy like Alec Burks. And now also, I think you're going to see Isaiah Livers have more of a role this year. And we've seen how much of a bucket he is. Buddy Boeheim. I know I was just listening to Isaiah Stewart on the Bun and Cardigan, which go listen to that, by the way. And he brought up how much of a shooter Buddy Boeheim is and how much of a bucket he is as well. In addition, I think Cade can be a really good shooter. As he keeps improving. I think rookie year wasn't fully symbolic of what he can be. What do you think of Detroit's ability to shoot from beyond the arc? And do you think that's something that's going to be a struggle for them to start the season? And do you think that's something that they're going to need to keep making more additions to keep improving on? What are your thoughts of where they're at right now as far as a shooting threat in the league?
Yeah. So when you take a look at shooting, obviously we know that is one of the key parts of today's game in the NBA right now. So when you take a look at a guy like Sadiq, we know he can shoot. He's probably their best 3-point shooter as it currently stands right now.
Mhm. Yep.
When you bring in Alec Burks, who shot, I want to say around 40% when he was in New York. So he's a solidified 3-point shooter right there. That's a pretty good addition to your bunch. But what I want to see is what is Killian Hayes going to do from 3? I want to see what is jaden Ivey going to do in his rookie season from 3. I think Cade is definitely going to get better. It's only a matter of time before he's shooting 3 at a pretty good clip. So I want to see how that kind of meshes together and when they're going to get those shots. Also, you mentioned Isaiah Livers. We saw him in summer league. He played really well. So there's going to be opportunities for him as well. If Buddy Boeheim gets called up due to maybe an injury to the roster, or if he's just performing that well for the Crews, maybe he gets an opportunity. And if he's open, 9 times out of 10, he's going to take that shot.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to look at the bigs. Is Isaiah Stewart gonna continue to show that confidence from 3 and emerge as a 3-point threat?
He's good form for sure.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but Isaiah Stewart, he's from Rochester. Obviously, Buddy is from Syracuse, so they're both upstate New York guys. They actually play for the same AAU program. The
Oh, no
City
way.
Rocks. Yeah. So there's a little bit of chemistry there. So it'll be interesting to see what this team does from 3.
Yeah.
Mike, you mentioned Chauncey being your favorite Piston in that going to work era. Do you have a favorite player all time? You know, in the history
he
of
said
the whole
Chauncey
league?
was his favorite player all time too. Maybe I guess other than Chauncey.
Other than Chauncey, yeah.
Other than Chauncey. This is easy. And it happened in 2007 when a guy by the name of LeBron James came into the Palace and did what a lot of Pistons fans don't like him to this day for. So that's kind of what I became.
But anyway.
Yeah, so when you just take a look at just the game in general, obviously we all know LeBron is one of the greatest to ever play this game, but he's done a lot for the game of basketball and off the court. So when you take a look at a guy who can kind of dominate the game from every aspect, scoring, assists, rebounding, defending when he was younger, like he can do it all. And I think that's why he's one of the best all-around players to ever play this game. So I got to go with LeBron. If you want to go with someone that's not so obvious, Dwayne Wade was a killer in his heyday.
Flash. Man.
Chris Paul is still going strong, so he was really one of my guys that I like to watch earlier on. So yeah, I'll say a combo of those 4.
As a fan, as a Chris Paul fan, that Game 7 loss to the Mavericks was a really difficult one to watch. I don't know about you, but as a Chris Paul guy, that one hurt. Oh man,
well, I think the finals too. You want to see him as one of the all-time great point guards get that championship.
Yeah,
but Giannis and the Bucks were too much to handle. Like he scored 50 in Game 6.
Yeah, that was like one of those times, and it's funny you brought up that LeBron game because this was the first time as a basketball fan I truly felt this, where I watched a player dominate at a level where I as a fan felt helpless, and I knew that every time he went down the court, no matter what we did, no matter what we tried, LeBron was getting the ball in the hoop because that was just the level of basketball he was playing that night, and that was the level that Giannis got to and peaked at that series. I mean, that game 6 ceiling performance to get the title was one of the most dominant finals games we've perhaps ever seen. It was insane. That guy's unreal. Oh my gosh. But Yeah, I mean, Jeff, you got any other basketball questions?
No, I wanted to ask, you kind of hit on it already, but Killian Hayes, because it's a guy that we talk about a lot on From Half Court, and it's someone that I think has had kind of been treated unfairly among Pistons fans, to be honest with you. I think when he was drafted here to begin with, he was looked at as the franchise point guard, and I think those expectations on him that early, and we are starving. We still are for success, that we kind of put it on Killian. And now in his third year, you kind of can look at him and you understand it's a big year for him. But from your perspective, from somebody who doesn't have any bias, like for us, we could talk about Killian and be like, well, listen, this, and this for Killian. From your perspective, what do you think his role is going to be this year, and how important of a year is it for Killian?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really big year for Killian. He's pretty much going to be, we're not sure where he's going to fall into the rotation. I mean, you got Cade, you got Jaden, you got Killian, you got Corey Joseph, you got Alec Burks. So those are 5 guards right there that the Pistons are going to have to like figure out how to divvy up time for. So I think Killian's role is going to be more so on the defensive end when he comes in the game. He's a capable defender. We've seen that. I've watched a few games, a few highlights from just his past 2 years, and he has career averages of 6.8 points, I think, and around 4 rebounds. So it's interesting. And Jalen Rose pointed this out to me last night when I was talking to him. Just the fact that Killian was drafted in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah,
he was taken at a time where something was going on that we've never seen before in the NBA. So obviously that was a rough time. It's hard to get acclimated to a team. It's hard to get that necessary, I guess, preparation time with your team leading up to your first season. So
yeah, the draft was like a month before the season started. It was in like October or November, and the season started
first week in November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for him to like, they essentially had to turn around and right away head to Detroit and essentially get to work like right away. So like there was no time to even adjust to the
From
city.
playing
It was like,
overseas.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
even you throw in quarantine as well. Like they probably had to like stay in quarantine for some amount. I mean, yeah, that's just, there's no time to get comfortable, like you said, for sure.
Yeah, and then we only saw 1 game out of him in summer league, and I don't think he played much in that game too. So
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing what he brings to the table this season, how he's going to contribute, and how he's going to fit into that kind of hotbed of point guards that they have.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really big, this is a prove it year for Killian. I mean, like there's really no other way to say it. I mean, if he doesn't show, and again, it's, a lot of people, talk about what Killian needs to improve at, and no one says that Killian needs to be this all-star level scoring guard. Like I think a lot of people saw him do step back threes, and he was a left-handed 3-point shooter, and they went James Harden, which, which is just the easy trap to fall in when anyone that's left-handed does a step back 3. It's just, you're going to fall in that trap. But in reality, Killian, he doesn't need to be an all-star scorer. He just needs to be NBA level, because you look at what he did or where he was at offensively at points, last season or even in his rookie season. And obviously he dealt with the injury, and, obviously you don't want to make you can talk about the difficult transition he had coming into the league, but still, like, there were points where his volume was low and his efficiency at points were some of the lowest efficiency numbers in the league as far as scoring the basketball. So I think, for him, it's going to be able to like have that aggression and that mindset to be able to attack on that end, but like also to do it in a way that's efficient and in the flow of the offense too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think if he doubles his scoring output, up it up to maybe 12 points a game, I think he's in a pretty good spot there.
Oh yeah. 12 points a game. And if he improves on the defensive level, on defensive end as well, I mean, he can be all NBA defensively, in my opinion, at some point, if he keeps growing in that area, because of, I mean, the intangibles he has already and the skill he has already on that side. I mean, Killian could be really good on the defensive end. Are you a big sneaker guy? Do you collect sneakers at all? Do you like shoes? Are you into that at all?
So I'm slowly turning into one. I got my first pair of retro Jordan 1s this summer or this spring. And I'm really liking how they feel, how they look. So I may be wearing a couple of them to a couple games this year.
Jordan 1s are the best sneaker of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no debate to me.
Yeah, I get that to you. Now that I've worn them, now that I've seen myself in them, I think I agree. I like 13s as well, 13s
Yeah.
and 4s.
Yeah, I will say the Mamba Grinches are pretty hot as well. Those sneakers are pretty fire. A lot of the Mamba line is underrated. Absolutely underrated.
Those are classics.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I did want to talk a little bit NBA wide stuff as well. We kind of touched on it a little bit. You know, you talked about your favorite NBA player of all time. I know another thing you and I were talking about a little bit. I brought up at one point. Isn't it crazy? Just like literally at any point, Kevin Durant could just be traded. We could just wake up and like we could just be like anything that we're doing. We could have a Woj notification or Shams letting us know that Kevin Durant is on the market. I mean, it seems like it's so dire that Shams is even starting to report like what other trade packages, what's been offered for KD as well. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that whole situation and if you have a prediction of where you think he might end up.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise to see just KD wanting out. First and foremost, it's a situation that him and Kyrie, they wanted to be together in Brooklyn, and now both of them are reportedly wanting to ask out. So it's kind of see like the whole Brooklyn experiment didn't go the way they planned, obviously.
Right.
And I think there's several things that contribute to that. Like when KD first got there, he couldn't play for an entire season because he was rehabbing from that Achilles injury. So it's a good question. So I think I didn't expect them first and foremost to get swept out of the playoffs by Boston. I kind of expected them as the number 8 seed, and I said this on a different podcast before. I expected them to beat Boston in 7 in the first round, and advance to the NBA Finals, pretty much like a lot of people thought.
Yeah,
So I was definitely wrong with that. So when they didn't, and we hear reports of Kyrie possibly not gonna opt into his deal. Maybe he wants to get traded. We heard reports about him reuniting with LeBron back to the Lakers. So it's been a very messy summer for Brooklyn. Where do I see him landing, or where do I think he should go? That's a good question.
Yeah, the world's his oyster on that front. I mean,
where does he go? Where does he go? Where he is he joining another team and elevating a playoff contender and just putting them over the top? Is he building from scratch like he tried to do in Brooklyn? What is truly best for KD? I think only KD knows what's best for KD and his legacy.
And the unfortunate part of that is what is best for the Nets, because they whoever has the most assets as well. So it's a tough one. You know, it's a tough one for him.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, on the other side, I mean, you're looking at teams. I know I saw reports that the Grizzlies have bounced around the idea of trading for Kevin Durant. I know the New Orleans Pelicans are another team that's reportedly been interested. I know the Raptors are another team that's bouncing around that idea. But it's like, you know, it's one thing. We saw Kawhi Leonard be available, you know, on the trade market a few years ago, go to Toronto and essentially be a rental. And like, that's kind of like one of the crazier trades that we've seen. But now the fact that we have Kevin Durant, who's one of, if not like top 1, top 2, top 3 best players in the world, 4 years left on a max contract,
4 years
available on the open market. And yet again, there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of valid apprehension, because what if he wants out of wherever he goes next as well? There's no guarantee that if you trade for Kevin Durant, that everything's going to go great. But I mean, even then, you look at all the things that have gone wrong for the Brooklyn Nets. Like, who would have thought years ago? Like, I mean, no one knew what COVID was. No one knew, you know, no one was thinking about pandemics or anything like that. So that being thrown into it and everything else, just, man, I mean, if they were to do it over again, how do you not trade for James Harden and go for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? How do you not make that decision? You know?
Yeah, the offensive firepower of that team, when you just think about it, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, all top tier skilled scorers, and they couldn't make it work. And it's kind of unfortunate for the basketball world because
Right.
had we saw that team in the NBA Finals, who knows? James Harden would probably be a champion by now.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure.
And you can honestly argue they're the best at all three of their positions. Like that's the scary part. That's why if you use the nets, no nets in 2K. All right, last year you cannot use the nets. Off limits, especially you, Mike.
Yeah,
No,
Mike,
I'll just throw it on random and I'll play with whoever.
dude,
Mike-
that's exactly how you do it, man. You got to random it. That's exactly what you do. This guy
Do you
gets
have a
2K ethics.
bold a finals prediction that you would want to make on the show, or is it way too early to call?
Might be way too early. And
I
just
want
a little
to
bit,
hear what Mike's hat. I want to hear
It's
contenders.
it's probably way too early, but I will throw one for the sake of throwing one out there.
I like it.
And I want to remind people that I am subject to change my mind at any time.
You're
Nope,
allowed.
this will actually be clipped. This is his definitive finals prediction for
We'll be
this
playing
season.
this in
No, I'm
June, no matter what.
Totally kidding. Totally kidding.
I'm gonna go with the Warriors going back to the finals
Mhm.
against.
It's got. I mean,
The Milwaukee Bucks.
yeah, it's got to be. Of course.
We
Yeah.
did that a couple weeks ago. A
built
prediction.
that up.
Was this American Idol? I was like waiting for the winner, man. You had
Yeah.
that Ryan Seacrest.
The
like,
three of us,
pause.
I
was like,
think,
man.
was our conclusion too of who we would
Yeah.
at this point in the summer would take. So
Yeah,
What if
when you
just
think
goes-
about
what if
it,
he
like,
just goes Pistons.
nah, yeah, I can't do that. not as a beat writer. I can't just sit up here and say that.
No,
but
I'm joking.
I think when you take a look at Milwaukee and that team that they had last year, what if Chris Middleton doesn't get hurt? They could
Yeah.
easily be right back
Easily.
in the finals. So I think with a full healthy team, I think they got a pretty good chance to do it again.
Yeah, and it's kind of like one of those things too, where it was kind of like how back in 2010, it seemed like it was going to be the finals that was destined to be LeBron versus Kobe. You know, and now it kind of feels like this could be the finals where we're destined to see Giannis versus Steph. And
Yeah.
if we get to see the Golden State Warriors explosive perimeter offense go up against Giannis's physicality and strength and interior dominance and presence, I just the clashing of style, like
Yeah.
styles make fights, and that would be an extremely intriguing matchup. It would be so fun to watch.
I thought we were going to get it this year, but
Yeah.
injuries happen.
Yeah, that definitely could happen this year. Speaking of things I'm excited to watch, Mike, seriously, man, I'm excited to read the articles you're going to have this upcoming season. I've been really enjoying the work that you've been doing
Yes,
so
sir.
far. I'm excited to
Appreciate
meet
that.
you
Thank
at the first. I'm hoping to meet you opening night too. We're definitely going to be there, so definitely going to have to come up and say hi. And definitely one of these times I'm in Detroit, would definitely love to grab a bite to eat sometime and hang out as well. Just seem like a great dude, man. I'm really excited to see your work. Super glad that you're in this position, man. And seriously, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. This is a lot of fun, and we're definitely gonna have to have you back on for sure.
No, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to have me on. This was really fun. I'm glad I got a chance to just even finally sit down, get settled, and just be able to talk about Pistons basketball, a little bit of my journey, and just everything I'm looking forward to about this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And dude, just like I said, on a personal level, man, I was just excited to just get to know you and just talk to you more. And definitely next time, I'm gonna have to ask you more about your music takes here, because I was looking at your list of favorite artists. Man, you got some good taste in music, man. You got J. Cole on there, got Nipsey Hussle on there, got Kendrick Lamar on there, just to name a couple, man. You got some good taste in music, man. You really do.
Yeah, I'm a lyrical hip hop guy. I can enjoy the turn up stuff every now and then, but my bread and butter is always like those guys with the wordplay, like Cole and Kendrick, and
Yes.
you can throw Big Sean in there, Detroit
Yes.
native. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what's up, man. I mean, hey, we're all about the lyrical stuff here about the game of basketball. We're wordsmiths about the game of hoops, not we definitely can't hop on a mic, but that's okay. But we can talk about basketball, because this is From Half Court each and every week. We talk all things about the game of basketball, about the NBA, about the Detroit Pistons, everything in the orbit of the game. If you like that, be sure you like this video. Be sure you to wow, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also be sure to share with your friends as well. And be sure to leave positive ratings on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. But with that, we want to thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.